You know, we have a lot of producers here, and they're students from Phoenix City High School, and they're really kind of bossy. They just tell you what they want done all the time. They're awesome. They are awesome. We are so blessed to have them. Okay. Well, again, it's great to be with you today. Thank you for joining us. I did have a couple of people call me last night and ask me why we were starting at 8 o'clock. They said they don't have those hours anymore. They like it 8:30, 9 o'clock. But we appreciate you getting up early on this Friday morning and joining with us today. We're going to now go into our part of the program where we have a PowerPoint presentation for you. If we could put the PowerPoint up on the screen, I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do want to say this. As Terry Roller stated, we're in a very challenging time right now. And I want to thank all of you, our principals, coaches, athletic directors, superintendents, for coming together to deal with this issue. It is a challenging issue, but I want to thank all of you. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. So if you text AHSAA 211 to numbers 22333, you can submit a question, and we'll place that on the screen throughout this presentation. I'll say it again, AHSAA 211 to 22333. If you'll submit a question, then we will be glad to answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of the presentation. I really want to thank Dr. Mackey, our state superintendent. He's done an awesome job leading our schools since March during this pandemic. You know, Alabama took the bold step in March and closed and went immediately into a distance learning platform so our students could have some form of education the remaining part of the spring semester, thanks to his leadership. Other states followed, all 50 states followed thereafter, but Dr. Mackey was one of the leaders, and we thank him very much. We thank Terry for being here this morning. He's been great to work with. And two people that I want to recognize, Ryan Hollingsworth, the head of SSA, our Superintendent's Association, Vic Wilson, head of class, both directors. I want to thank both of them as they work with this association all the time. We, Dr. Mackey, Ryan, and Vic, we have a conference call every couple of weeks to update ourselves, to go over issues that we're all dealing with. And I'm very privileged to work with those three and Terry, four outstanding individuals. They've just been wonderful to work with. And this group right here that I've talked about being a little bossy this morning, as they are because they take a lot of pride in this production, is led by a special teacher, Tim Lorman. And you can see him there in the orange shirt, and he's in here this morning. His head is always in that computer because he's making sure this is right. But we have Ellison Laney and Haley McDonald with us today from Central High School. They are part of the NFHS network program, and I can say this. The network program is, we feel like, one of the finest opportunities that our schools have to educate other students through sport. And having a leader like Tim as a teacher and students like Ellison and Haley, they have facilitated this production. And if we were in the auditorium packed with 1,000 people this morning, I'd ask all of you to stand and give them a big applause. I was just part of a virtual summer conference with the NFHS, and while they had an outstanding conference, I'll say ours is second to none because of Tim, Ellison, and Haley. And I want to say to all three of you, I want you to look at me 1 second. I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for the great job that you did. All right, you can get back to work now. You guys are good. Get back to work. And I want to thank our corporate partners. You've seen a lot of commercials as we've tried to promote our corporate partners. Usually at this time in our summer conference, we have the displays out front. We have their booths. And we're not able to do that for them this time, so we're trying to promote them as much as possible. But I want to say to each and every one of our corporate partners, thanks for staying with us. You know, this has been a very difficult time for all of our corporate partners. And I really ask you, when you can, to support those corporate partners, because they're still paying the Alabama High School Athletic Association for a partnership, which we share with you every year. And we've shared $17 million over the last 10 years back to schools because of these corporate partners. And they have a choice right now. They have a choice. They can say, I can't do it right now. Times are tough, and times are tough. Their times are tough for Jacks. Times are tough for Cadence. They're tough for Wilson. Wilson's not selling any balls. But to the most part, they have all hung in there with us, and they do it for you. And I truly hope that you don't forget who our corporate partners are, because they are helping our member schools. I can't say enough about this group that's on the screen now, the staff at the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I am truly privileged to work with them also. Dedicated professionals that we have, and a lot of them will speak to you today, and I'll introduce them more personally to you at that time. But from our secretarial staff to whatever executive staff it is, we work with the finest individuals. You know, every year at Thanksgiving and Christmas, we eat together. You know, being Italian, we always like those big family meals all the time. We're very gregarious, so we bring everybody together. So every year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, we bring everyone who's worked for the Alabama High School Athletic Association back for a meal. Now, don't worry, I get somebody to sponsor that. We're not using your money for that. But I bring them in, and all those folks are just the most wonderful folks you could ever work with. You know, it goes down to Alan Mitchell. You see Alan Mitchell, who's down there at the bottom. He works part-time. Alan Mitchell's is 80-something years young, and he still comes to work every single day because he loves this association. He loves you guys. And he works on our website. So all the people that you see there are truly love to work with you. Even Amy, who you see sideways right there. I don't know what happened to that picture, but I should have done a better job. But even Amy, she is our new CFO. We're just blessed to work with great folks. And I'm thankful to have the opportunity to work with these educators. These are the individuals who represent our Central Board of Control that you elected from your district. I always ask you to get involved with your local districts so you can influence the policies and procedures of this association. Remember, we don't make rules, we govern rules. We don't make policy, we govern policy. But these folks that you see, along with your legislative council members, are the ones who are going to provide the direction of this association. So I say to all of you, get involved in your local districts and elect the people who you think will represent you. But I'm very thankful. Our president, Keith Bender, our vice president, Mike Welch, and all of our members we're very thankful to have all of those individuals. All right, I see a commercial on the screen right now, and I've lost my PowerPoint. Am I supposed to be in a commercial right now? All right, thank you. All right, so now I want to also provide all of you, and this PowerPoint will be available next week to you. I want to provide all of you the email addresses of those here at the association. But I have on top of this something I say to you every year, and I want to say to you for the 14th time. Don't interpret the rules. Let us interpret them for you. When I came to the Alabama High School Athletic Association 14 years ago, I thought I knew all the rules. I thought I knew a lot. Mr. Washburn, when I worked 6 months with him, he taught me how little I knew. And he truly humbled me in that 6 months, because a lot of us think we understand the rules of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I challenge to ask you how many of you have read the handbook cover to cover. And so what you do, and we want you to do, is we want you to call us proactively. We never want to rule a child ineligible, ever, ever, ever. And please listen to this, we are not in the business of making a child ineligible. We're in the business of making a child eligible. I tell our staff that every day. And if you proactively call us, and don't ever say to us, I know you're busy, I'm sorry to bother you, because we're never busy enough not to take your call. We'll answer your call or email within a day, every time. And we want you to call us. But let us interpret. Every time we have an appeal hearing, it never fails. We go into that appeal hearing, and the board hears the school making the appeal say, we interpreted the rule this way. Please don't interpret. Every ruling in the history of this association is now digitized and available as a resource. We will always check precedent if it's a new ruling, so to make sure that we rule as this association has. Last year, last April, you passed 11 new bylaws to change the rules and regulations of this association, the most that we've ever passed. And I'm very proud of you for reaching out and doing what's best for our student athletes. So as we deal with these bylaws, please call us, let us interpret the rules before you give a parent a ruling or you give a child a ruling or let them know what you think it is. Now, we have a person at our office who I'm blessed to work with every day, and I'm going to introduce these people as they come up. Kim Vickers. Kim Vickers is the eligibility coordinator. She's as good as it gets when it comes to eligibility. There's no one who knows there's one person, Miss Vickers, but there's no one who knows the rules like Kim Vickers knows the rules. And every time I go to her office, somebody's on the phone asking her to interpret those rules for us. I'm going to ask her to come up today and to go over with you the 11 new bylaws that passed. And then any questions you may have, again, you can text to AHSAA 211 to 22333 or something like that. So you can text it in and we'll answer those questions at the end. So at this time, if you please welcome Kim Vickers.
Thank you, Coach. As he mentioned earlier, 11 bylaws were passed by our membership this past spring through the legislative process, and Coach also mentioned our Central Board of Control and the Legislative Council. These two groups, through the proposal process, worked diligently to make sure that the rules that the schools voted on were passed, and 11 of those were passed over this past year. So at this time, I'm going to go over them, as Coach has asked me to do, and talk about those. And also, he mentioned if you have a question about one of these bylaws, feel free to text it in and we'll answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Along with, anytime you have a question, feel free to either email me or any one of those in the office that Coach mentioned earlier. Right, on the screen now, you should see all of the 11 bylaws that were passed. And if you'll notice, the first one that had 3 different changes this year was to the transfer rule, talking about sub-varsity participation and how dependent children of full-time classroom teachers and administrators could be eligible to transfer to schools outside of their zones. A rule allowing not allowing 2 consecutive years of ineligibility for overlapping school zones, the start date for the 50% rule to go into effect, sanctioning requirements, an earlier start for evaluations for the fall sports, and how much time a coach can work with students outside the regular season, and the penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct and accepting a passport, and then students being prohibited from being coached from students within the school, and then last, the number of summer school units that are allowed. I'm going to go through each of these in a little unusual format with a question first and then the answer and show you the bylaw that was passed. The first question you'll see on your screen says there was an amendment to the transfer rule under Section 12 that allows a student to be eligible to participate in sub-varsity contests even if the transfer rules were not met. Can a student who has not met all the transfer rules participate in the varsity level? The answer to that question is no. A student can transfer to any school and be immediately eligible for sub-varsity, but not varsity. A student must meet all eligibility requirements in order to participate at the varsity level. If you'll notice, there are four notes underneath that transfer rule that explains that. And so the second one said that they're only allowed to participate in middle school, junior high, or JV under this new bylaw. They cannot participate at the varsity level until all eligibility requirements are met. Also, there's a note that says a student is allowed to do one of these transfers per school year and under these circumstances. And the option to do this type of transfer is available one time per year at the beginning of any semester. And any additional transfer rules must meet all applicable transfer bylaws. Now, the question has been brought up in our office recently because, as you know, there are a lot of situations going on across our state right now dealing with this pandemic. And we're getting many phone calls in our office wanting to know, well, can my son transfer to school B even though we don't reside in that school zone and be immediately eligible? And basically, yes, under this new bylaw, a student can transfer. And back to this, there's another question on the screen. Does a transfer student have to meet all other eligibility requirements in order to participate at the sub-varsity level? Yes, all other, including the academic rule, the age rule, and most importantly, the financial aid rule. If a student wants to transfer to a private school, even though he has not made a bona fide move into the new school attendance zone or there's an overlapping school zone rule, the transfer violations are not in place. However, to participate even at sub-varsity, that student could not receive any type of financial aid. The next question, can a student complete multiple transfers within the same year? I think I've already answered that by saying no. In accordance with the new bylaw, a student is allowed only one transfer per school year under these circumstances. And as I was mentioned earlier, with the situation across the state right now with the pandemic, there are a lot of schools who are considering not participating in athletics this upcoming year. They're considering going to an all-virtual model and shutting down athletics until they resume to either traditional or blended model of instruction. In that case, a student could transfer under this new bylaw and be immediately eligible wherever he enrolls. If the school will allow him to enroll, he or she could be immediately eligible for sub-varsity competition. The next question, are dependent children of full-time classroom teachers or administrators who accept a position in another school attendance zone eligible to participate in athletics at the new school? This is a new exception under the home rule for the transfer rule. Said yes, any student whose parent or as a full-time takes a job at a new school as a full-time classroom teacher or administrator may transfer to the new school and be immediately eligible. You'll notice there on the note on the right-hand side of your screen, if the student attends the old school after the parent's move-in occurred, the student will not become immediately eligible at the parent school unless the transfer is made at the beginning of the new semester. If the transfer is made after the school year begins, the student would not become eligible until the beginning of the next semester. We've also been asked under this new rule, if a full-time classroom teacher or administrator has maybe moved in 2018, but his son or daughter wanted to stay at the previous school that they're zoned to attend. Can the student transfer this year and be immediately eligible? The answer to that question is also yes, under this new bylaw, if he transfers at the beginning of the school year. The next question, can a student change schools within an overlapping school zone and be eligible at the new school? Obviously, the overlapping school rule always trumps. However, at sub-varsity level, a student can transfer to any school and be eligible for sub-varsity as long as they meet all other requirements. But for varsity play, the student cannot participate in accordance with the overlapping school zone rule. The new amendment to the bylaw, you'll see this over here in the note, says a student who changes schools within an overlapping school zone is ineligible for varsity competition for 1 year from the date of enrollment. However, after serving 1 year of ineligibility at the varsity level, if the student transfers to any other school that serves the parent's attendance zone where the family resides within the overlap, the student would be eligible to participate at the varsity level if the transfer is the next consecutive year. The key word there is the next consecutive year. And the discussion or the rationale behind this proposal was to prohibit kids or prevent kids from being ineligible 2 consecutive years. For an example, I'll use the city of Montgomery. If a student transferred, he was attending Carver because that's where he's zoned to attend, and then transferred to one of the private schools here in Montgomery, in accordance with the overlap, he would be ineligible for varsity play. And let's say for the next school year, he wants to transfer back to Carver. In the past, that student would be again ineligible at Carver. But now with this new bylaw change, the student would only have to sit and be ineligible for that 1 year, that first year. Next year, the consecutive year, he could return to varsity play if he met all other eligibility requirements. The next bylaw to change, can a student count any number of credits or units earned in a summer school toward eligibility? In the past, you'll recall that students were only allowed to earn 2 summer school credits during the summer. But now, any number of credits or units earned through a board-approved summer school program such as Access, Credit Recovery, correspondence courses or dual enrollment, etc., can be counted and used for the next school year's eligibility purposes. Notice, though, that these courses must be completed and grades posted to the transcript prior to the first fall contest date. This year, that would be August the 20th. In the past, that rule said those 2 summer school credits had to be completed and posted prior to September 1st. That bylaw was a little dated, based on the rationale behind the proposal, because when the bylaw was created, most schools didn't start until the end of August or after Labor Day. But now schools are starting much earlier, so this rationale made sense for this bylaw. So any number of credits can be earned through an approved course, as long as they're completed and posted before first fall contest date. Now, the virtual learning environment. You heard Mr. Terry Roller from the State Department of Education mention earlier that in accordance with AHSAA bylaws, virtual school students have always been eligible to participate since 2016. This was a bylaw that was included into the handbook 4 years ago. And basically, the student is allowed to enroll in the school. He's still enrolled. The only difference is he's taking his classes through a virtual option through that school's virtual program. Many of you also are aware that we have numerous statewide virtual schools that are free public K-12 schools across the state. These schools are under the umbrella of other school systems. So if a student is enrolled in one of those schools, the student could not come back and enroll in the local school he's zoned to attend and be immediately eligible because he's enrolled in another school. However, if the school offers a virtual program or virtual option, a student may enroll in that virtual program and be eligible and be immediately eligible throughout the school year as long as all other requirements are met. This is nothing new. We're hearing a lot about virtual learning over the past few months because of the pandemic, but this bylaw has been in place since 2016, and students have always been able. There's a note at the bottom under the academic accountability, though, and this applies also to our homeschool students, that only 1 PE course per year may be counted toward eligibility. That's the same rule that's in the bylaw for a traditional student, and it also applies to both homeschool and virtual school students as well. Okay, the next bylaw focuses on the 50% rule, on the dates of when the 50% rule goes into effect. The 50% rule basically means that students from the same school cannot participate with more than 50% on the same outside team during the school year. Well, now, the question is, when does the 50% rule for outside participation not in effect? It is not in effect from the first Monday, following the last spring championship date to the first fall contest date. For an example, this past year, our spring championships were scheduled to end on Saturday, May the 18th. So that Monday, which would have been they were supposed to end on May the 16th, my bad. May the 18th was that Monday. From that day throughout the rest of the summer until the first fall contest date, the 50% rule is not in effect. Quite often we get questions asking, well, I thought the 50% rule was in effect all the time. The answer to that is no. During the summer or during these time periods, the 50% rule is not in effect. Any number of students can participate on the same outside team outside the school season as long as they're not being coached by anyone from that school. The next question. If a school holds spring football evaluations, can that school's football program start practice a week earlier than the first Monday in August? The bylaw that passed here says no. Fall sports all have the option of conducting a spring evaluation. Football gets 10 days out of consecutive 20, and other sports get 5 out of consecutive 10. So in the answer to this question, if a fall football program held spring evaluations this year's a little different, but let's say in the spring, can they come back and start fall practice a week earlier? No, they cannot. They cannot do both. If they had a spring evaluation this past May, then they could not start fall practice until August the 3rd. And the next question, dealing with another bylaw, can a coach practice with players and teach sports-specific skills during the off-season? This was the rule that we've had in place for 2 years now. This will actually be 3, but it changed somewhat this year. In the past, a coach could work with no more than 50% of the number that makes up a team for no more than 2 hours per week. No athlete could have more than 2 hours per week, and it was one coach at a time for 50%. The bylaw changed now to say yes. Coaches from the school staff may hold organized instruction out of the sports season during the school year for a maximum of 10 weeks, the off season, with a maximum of 2 hours per week per sport. So basically now a coach can take any number of athletes from his or her team, any number of coaches, and work with those players in the off season as long as he or she does not exceed the 2 hours per week. And the example over here is, if you'll see on the right-hand side, a note. It says, AHA coaches from the school staff may hold organized instruction outside the sports season during the week. Anytime a coach works sports-specific drills with an athlete, that time counts toward the 2-hour team total for that sport for that week. For an example, if the baseball coach or the softball coach wants to work with infielders on Monday, and she works with infielders for 30 minutes, then 30 minutes of that 2 hours has been used. So for the rest of the week, the coach only has 1 hour and 30 minutes to work with all the other players. Okay, the next bylaw deals with the conduct rule. If a player is ejected by the contest officials or by the AHSAA for unsportsmanlike conduct that causes other players to leave the bench or team box, what is the penalty? In the past, it was just an ejection. And the rationale behind this proposal was the students who left the bench that actually didn't do anything besides leave the bench during the altercation were penalized more so than the student who created the unsportsmanlike conduct. So now the rule changed to say if a player is ejected by the contest officials or by the AHSAA for unsportsmanlike conduct that causes other players from his or her team to leave the bench or team box, The player who initiated the altercation will be charged with the same penalty as those who left the bench under the National Federation rules, and that penalty is suspension of 20% of the school's regular season contest. So for an example, if this occurs in football, the student who was involved in the altercation, the student or students, would also be charged with a 20% suspension of the regular season contest. Another bylaw is passports. What can we accept instead of a birth certificate to recognize a student's date of birth? You know, that's an issue, especially in our state where we have many migrant students, or what we call transfer students. But now the bylaw has passed is, can a passport be used to verify a student's birth if a state-issued birth certificate is not available? Yes, a passport can be used to record or put on record the student's date of birth. For a passport be used as long as that student was born in the foreign country and provides that passport. Other items of documentation, such as a visa or any other green cards, etc., they would not be acceptable. Now there are only two things that you can use to verify a student's birth, and it's either a state-issued birth certificate or a passport. Okay, I'm not sure what happened to this one, with there being a star on the front of it. But anyways, as outside the allowable dates, can a softball coach at the school coach two students from his or her school on a travel team, even if the two students have not made the school team yet? The answer to that question is also no. A coach cannot coach any student from his or her school in the off-season outside the school year, even if that student has not already made the team. For an example, especially your spring sports, sometimes we don't have tryouts until the fall. So if a coach has coached two students during the off-season on a travel baseball team, but they were in the 7th grade and haven't made the middle school or junior high team, he could not coach them in the spring. And what is the penalty? The penalty, either the coach or the students would be ineligible for that spring season in the sport of baseball. The next question, do all tournaments have to be sanctioned by the AHSAA? You know, in the past, all tournaments had to be sanctioned. The new bylaw now states only tournaments that determine a champion must be sanctioned. A sanctioned tournament is defined as an organized event in a sport when 3 or more teams participate and an overall champion is determined through multiple contests. A round robin with 3 or more teams must be counted as a tournament, but if a champion is not determined, the round robin is not sanctioned. Basically, this bylaw just allowed to keep you from having to sanction every event with multiple teams. You only have to sanction those that determine a champion. However, it is the responsibility of the schools to verify all participants of the tournament. Because remember, AHSA member schools may only participate against other member schools or schools that are members of the National Federation or their state's association. And a reminder too, no Sunday play is allowed. Okay, at this time, that concludes all of the bylaws that I wanted to discuss. I may not have answered the questions that you would like addressed. If I didn't, as I stated earlier, feel free to text your questions to the AHSAA 211 to 22333, and we'll be glad to answer those questions at the end of our presentation. Also, as Coach shared earlier, you're welcome to email anyone in our office, and always feel free to reach out and contact us here at the AHSA office, because we're more than willing to answer your question. And as Coach said, we want to prevent mistakes from happening. We want to make kids eligible. We're in the business of making kids eligible. If you will ask our help, we'll be more than happy to assist you, so feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. You did an awesome job, as you always do. And has a wonderful PowerPoint with the bylaw changes. Quite a few bylaw changes. So please call us if we can assist you with those at any time. If we'll go back to the PowerPoint. At this time, I'm going to address what many of you have questions about, and that's the current situation with COVID-19. I want to thank all of our committees and task force that were put together since last spring that have helped us through this very challenging time. We had a spring sports committee, a fall sport committee, a football committee, and a fall and other committees that have all met to discuss what we could do in this challenging time. First and foremost, I want to say we plan on having a fall season. I understand that different areas of our state will face different challenges, and we're going to work with those folks. But we plan on having a fall season at this time. The only way we will not have a fall season is if a governing body were to close our campuses and not allow our students to return. You know, our students have worked out all summer long, and I want to commend you coaches, administrators, for doing a wonderful job practicing the 3 basic practices of wearing a mask, physical distance, and cleaning, and cleaning, and cleaning, and cleaning. And you've had to learn a new way to do things. And if our world would practice exactly what you modeled this summer, we would not be in the current shape that we're in today. We want you to know that we're in this with you, and we're in the business of promoting the mission of sport. And we're going to do everything possible we can to provide our students a platform to participate. Now, our world currently is the way it is with increasing numbers. Mr. Roller, when he talked to you this morning, says I use the word currently all the time because our world changes daily. But currently, our numbers are increasing. If our governor just issued an order for us all to wear masks when we're in public, except we have the exception during athletic activities. We encourage you all to do that. You know, if you look how our world has changed since March 17th, we started back in June. We've worked with our players all summer long, and now we're facing different challenges again. So we base any decisions we make on current information. We don't know what the new normal is going to be. I would have never dreamed that I would be telling you later in this that you got to clean those helmets every single day, that you're going to have to wear masks even on the sideline when you're not participating. But our world is changing, and we are learning a new normal. Encouraging information that continues to come out on a daily basis is maybe we'll have a vaccine sooner than later. And I pray for that time when we can return to our old normal, which we will, I hope, appreciate more than we may have in the past. I also want to say that we receive a lot of emails. You know, we get a lot of suggestions at the Alabama High School Athletic Association. We get a lot of opinions. We understand and we respect those. And what we say is everyone has a legitimate perspective. If you feel like your students should stay at home, or you feel like we shouldn't have athletics, that's a legitimate concern. For those of you who think we need to return our children to their childhood, that's a legitimate perspective. So we understand both sides, and it's a conundrum, and we're going to have to work through this as we learn to live with the virus. And that's truly what we're going to have to do. Now, what can you do? What can you do so we have sport? Number one, you can physical distance. You can wash, clean, and you can wear a mask. If we do this, we'll keep playing, we'll have people in the stands, and we'll have a season. If we don't do it, then I think our future is bleak. Now, we will present to our board next Wednesday the best practices for resuming play provided through our medical advisory board. I'm going to cover some of the things that we'll go over, not everything that we'll go over with our board, and there could be a lot of change between now and Wednesday as our data changes every single day. But before you begin any athletic activity, it is the responsibility of the local system to review the latest guidelines by the CDC, the Department of Public Health, the Alabama State Department of Education, and your local ordinances. Very important. The local school administration, you must have a communication conduit between administrators and coaches. Coaches, go to your administrators. Administrators, define the policies of your system. But each school system is required to have guidelines on how to deal with COVID-19. We as an association encourage administrators and coaches to be versed in the Alabama State Department of Education's Reopening Schools Roadmap, especially pages 4 to 24 that deal with athletics. And we have a course that's now available called COVID-19 for Administrators. Everyone should look at and take that course. Tony Stallworth is sitting out in the audience today, and if he was here, he'd be up there. First thing he'd be saying to you, everybody take that course. But for litigious reasons and your liability, it's there to help you. But it's called COVID-19 for Coaches and Administrators, and it can be found at www.nfhslearn.com. Now, what are the effective strategies that we'll have to adhere to during athletics? One, physical distance. We want to try to stay 6 feet or greater at all times or as often as possible. When you can't, facial coverings have to be worn. And always keep up with the latest health order. We have a new health order from the governor, and that's why everyone here, we've been wearing masks. We encourage you to follow the latest health order by the governor. Daily self-evaluation should be formed by coaches, any non-essential personnel, and your students. Every day you should go through at least our form that we have online that is a self-evaluation and make sure that no one has signs or symptoms of COVID-19. You should closely monitor your kids throughout the day as you do anyway. And please be sure, regardless of where any exposure may occur, follow the protocols of the CDC. Now, I put this on here because this is a CDC, Alabama Department of Public Health guideline and recommendation from our medical advisory board. Any student who develops COVID-19 before they can return to play must have a minimum 5-day acclimation period. That will be voted on by the board next week to be a requirement, but a 5-day acclimation period. There's so many issues with individuals that develop COVID-19, and they can't be out 14 days and just return to play immediately. There'll be a 5-day acclimation period, and you will evaluate that child during that time. If they show any signs, symptoms of any issues, please get them to a medical doctor right away. And I want to remind you, and it's on the bottom of this slide, that Terry Roller brought it up to you from the State Department. If a student develops COVID-19, report it to your administrator, but your administrators know that contact tracing is not a requirement of local schools, but of the Alabama Department of Public Health. We encourage you, and I'll cover buses and those things in a minute, but we encourage you to keep as many seating charts, maps of where students are. So if someone develops COVID, your entire team is not quarantined, just those who were within 6 feet for a time of 15 minutes. Now, this is the order by the governor, and I want to just basically cover this with you. Facial coverings effective July 16th, everyone should wear a mask in Alabama. But I highlighted, that's the order. I'm not going to go through the whole order, but if you look at the bottom, it's highlighted any person who is directly participating in athletic activities in compliance of paragraph 11 of this order, or any person who's in a swimming pool, lake, water, and so on, is exempt from this order. So here's what I say to all of you as coaches. When they're participating in an activity, they can take their mask off. Many of them today are wearing the mask they wear around the neck. They flip up as soon as they're done. You've done a great job with that. But when they go to the sideline, get them 6 feet apart, make sure their masks go back up on their face. Do whatever you can to protect the health and safety of the student athletes. And I want to make this really clear. We are not going to eliminate COVID-19. You can wear a mask, you can stay 6 feet, you can clean. We're not going to eliminate it. What we're trying to do is mitigate the risk. Any child who participates in athletics has a risk. Every child who participates in the sport of football especially understands there's a risk of concussion. But we try to mitigate the risk of concussion by developing rules to protect the head. This is what we're trying to do with the virus. As we learn to live with it, we're trying to mitigate the opportunity to spread that virus. I put a tweet from the Mayor Reed of Montgomery. I'm really proud of Mayor Reed because he took the bold step weeks ago when Montgomery was leading the state with COVID-19 cases of creating an ordinance within our city that everyone had to wear a mask. I'm proud to say today in Montgomery, we're not even in the top cities in Alabama anymore as our rate is reduced by 50%. And I thank him for his leadership. He was criticized for making everyone wear a mask. I didn't like when my wife and I went to Publix that I had to wear a mask, but I wore a mask. And I'm thankful today I did. And I'm hopeful that we'll all do our part and follow this mask ordinance. You know, it's very little to do to ask someone who comes to a football, volleyball game, to a swimming meet or cross country to put a mask on. And I encourage everyone to follow this order and do this. This is a continuation to the part of the order, and I wanted to cover a couple of parts. It just shows you at the bottom that facial coverings have to be worn except when a player is directly participating in athletic activity. But I wanted to cover the sanitation of water bottles because I think it's any time you have a drinking device, that's going to be a real challenge for you. Every child must have their individual water bottle. Now, we're going to start July 27th in some form or fashion to be discussed by the board Wednesday. And when we do that, normally, typically in July, our temperatures and heat index, soar over 100 degrees. Hydrating our players, which Dr. Robinson went over that requirement yesterday morning, is going to be extremely important. So you're going to have to come up with ingenious ways to make sure your students can refill their water bottles. And it just may have to cause you to conduct practice a different way. It may be a little bit different for an inside activity and a little easier. But outside, in 100 degrees, when you're wearing helmets, the most important thing is you don't neglect the responsibility you have to hydrate those players. So please make sure that you organize a system where athletes can have water whenever they need it. And if there's any question that they're dehydrated, please follow our guidelines and stop practice, at least for that individual. All right. Schools at this time, currently, schools may choose to begin fall practice anytime after July 27th. A lot of you don't play 0 week. And some of you have called me and say, Coach, I don't have to start the 27th through. Absolutely not. All you need to know is you must have an acclimation period whenever you start. Currently, the acclimation period is 2 days in shorts, 2 days in shells. That acclimation period is going to be discussed at the board meeting next Wednesday. I'm not sure. We may not have any contact the first week in the sport of football, but we're going to be very cautious about how we bring our players back. You know, I hear many times coaches say, we've got to get back, we've got to do this. We cannot rush back. We've got to slowly bring our students, athletes back safely. And we want to make sure you learn how to practice with the virus. It's not about winning championships in July. Because, you know, I did coach for a little while, and I do know you don't win championships in July. And I know you don't win championships without your best players that you have on your team feeling really good about themselves in November and December. So we're going to take small steps. We have a little extra time this year, and we're going to take it slowly. And I also want to encourage those who don't start the 27th, whenever you start, make sure that your parents, for all of you, that your parents are aware of all the safety requirements that you're requiring of your student athletes. Now, we'll be sending out posters from Alpha, and I'm thankful Alvin Briggs has been leading this charge with the Alpha posters. But our first poster that we're sending out is entitled Responsibility, and we all have a part to play. You can see all of our athletes there wearing a mask, and I am so proud of all of you as coaches for the great job that you've done this summer practicing the safety best practices that we outlined for you. You've done a wonderful job. But please make sure that we continue, because it is our responsibility. Now, what are the best practices for the preseason and regular season? You'll see all the time we're going to put something about facial coverings on every one of these slides because we want you to practice those. And we say, put up a sign that says, please wear a mask. But I want to start out by saying only essential personnel should be on your practice field or your sideline. Non-essentials need to be somewhere else. Look, please, if you have individuals that have always been on the sideline, just please explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. You know, we're going to provide a modification to all sports that are starting in the fall. We're going to provide rule modifications to the board for the board to approve on Wednesday. We'll post that for you. One of those modifications is the bench in volleyball, the sideline in football, the spacing that we recommend. And when we have non-essential people, then that closes that gap and we don't have as much space. So just let your folks know you still love them and you care about them. Find someplace else for them, but let them know non-essential people will not be allowed on, or should not be allowed on the sidelines. There will be new guidelines because we know schools, some will start with athletics, some will not. Some may come in during the middle season. We also understand that some schools will start, possibly stop. We're going to present a number of scenarios to our board. Basically, what we're going to explain to our board, once a school begins to participate in athletic contests, in any declared fall sport, any games not played will result in a forfeit. If your campus is closed and you do not begin and you do not allow athletics, those games will be vacated, but the other team will receive a victory if they're in and can play. If a school is not able to play in a contest due to COVID, we ask that superintendent of that school to notify the association in writing. We have developed contingency plans for championships for what we feel like is most contingencies that could occur. But I can assure you, we don't know what the future holds. We've tried to provide as many contingencies as we can, but it's not about winning championships. It's about allowing our students to play. And that should be the most important concept that we have now is participation. If we in November are in this room meeting with our coaches beginning the fall playoffs, I'll be the happiest human in the world. But I assure you, our goal is to get there. But first, we have to practice what we've talked about previously, and we understand that systems will have challenges along the way. Now, our plan right now is to have a normal season. A lot of people have called me and said, Coach, why don't we just play region games? Why don't we go to an area format? We can do all these things. But we don't know when we'll be able to play and when we'll not be able to play. We want to start in the beginning and try to play, get as much in as we can, because once you're out, it's hard to come back. And we saw that happen in March. If we close schools all across the state, they're not going to close them for 2 weeks. They'll probably close them for a semester. So we want to try to have what we can in the beginning, and hopefully with all people doing their part, we'll be able to complete our season. We can have modified championship play. We can have no championships. We'll deal with those issues as they arrive. But right now, our plan is to have a normal season. Now, another question we receive all the time, what about fans? Well, Dr. Farrell Seymour will be talking to you from Opelika, along with Dodd Hawthorne, Superintendent of Crenshaw County, shortly about how to conduct athletic events within your school. Well, I remember back in the day, Dr. Seymour, when Alex City, Benjamin Russell, and Opelika played. And the stands were packed and people were standing on the sideline and all around. Well, that may not be possible in the future. But one thing that you will have to do is you will have to provide equal access for visiting fans. Those visiting bleachers will have to have a big enough area to help our visiting fans. You can't take your home fans, put them all, so you spread them out, put them all on the visiting side and not allow the visiting team to come in. They will have to have equal access. We're also providing you a digital ticketing platform for fans. We ask you, if you haven't used it, use our GoFan, go to gofan.com, check out our digital ticketing platform. We have hundreds of our schools already using it. You don't need the internet. It's very simple. And when you sign up, you get part of the fee at the school from GoFan. So it's a great way for you to generate a little extra money for yourself. We encourage you to do that. Patrick talked to y'all yesterday. Also, we understand you won't have as many fans, so live streaming is important. Ron is going to talk to you today about an opportunity through the NFHS network. The NFHS network has a new plan for season passes. If you sell season passes, I'll give you an example. The season passes cost $20. you can sell, you only pay $25 for them, you make $45 per pass. You sell 100 of them, you can see how much money you make. You can make $4,500. So it's a great way for you to generate additional income in addition to part of the monthly fee for those who pay monthly to get on the network. Ron will talk more to you about that, and I'm very proud of all of our schools who are using the NFHS network now, just like our folks from Phoenix City who are here today. Communication. Dr. Seymour, Dodd Hawthorne will talk to you about communication between schools, but it's going to be imperative. And what you have to do before a visiting team arrives, you must call them and talk to them and go over issues that they may face. Like if that dressing room is a little small, you might want to dress at home. You might want to dress in waves. I had a coach call me the other day, said he's going to stay outside all the time. You need to cover different ways where your teams could have some separation as they're in locker rooms. Host schools are responsible providing a clean environment. You must clean the facility before the visiting team arrives, as well as your facility. So it's very important. And signage, asking everyone to practice the principles that we talked about, should be placed all throughout your stadiums, your gyms. Transportation. We are going to ask everyone who rides a bus to wear a mask. Everyone on a bus, wear a mask. We're going to ask everyone who rides a bus to have assigned seats. Assigned seats is the only way that the Department of Public Health can contact trace. So wear a mask, assigned seats on the bus. Now, all of you have contracts or are supposed to have contracts for football. I ask you to work with the other teams if there is a forfeiture or vacated game. For example, I use the example of Benjamin Russell and Opelika playing. Well, if Opelika was the host and Alex City schools were closed and they couldn't attend, Opelika loses a home game. Well, next year we're back to normal. The game by contract is in Alex City. What I would ask the two principals to do, athletic directors, get together, split the gate, amend the contract. Work and help both schools. Do not find a way to create an advantage. Find a way to be a good human being and use common sense, and y'all work together through this issue. Auxiliary participants. Now, these are anyone who, from a ball boy to a gate worker, everyone must be screened before they participate. You go through the screening procedures you're using now. Post-game gestures, handshakes. We need to find other ways to demonstrate sportsmanship. You can go to NFHS Learn. They have some great examples for you to follow that. All game day personnel must be screened. Any auxiliary personnel, ticket takers, concession workers, security, media, everyone must be screened before they get. Again, you can find examples of screening processes at www.cdc.com. We will allow marching bands, dance teams, drill teams, and so on to participate under the guidance of the local school districts. We talked to you about cleaning. Online on our website are what chemicals can be used to clean your balls, to clean your helmets. These are suggestions we have. This one is by our corporate partner, Wilson. I encourage you to follow these cleaning guidelines. They're available on our website. But equipment should be cleaned and sanitized daily after each use. That includes helmets, that includes shoulder pads, that includes lockers. Everything should be cleaned and sanitized every day. And it's really easy for me to stand up here and say this as I don't have to do it. But what I would suggest, cleaning supplies, and part of the rituals in those locker rooms should be those players cleaning those lockers every day, cleaning their equipment every day before they leave. And it should be done, and it becomes part of the practice procedure. Officials. It's very important that you communicate any local COVID ordinances with officials before they come to your stadiums, to your gyms. Pre-game meetings between teams and contest officials must have social distancing or physical distancing between the individuals. The officials table should be limited to essential personnel. When you're in that gym, if you can't keep them 6 feet apart, then they don't need to be there. And remember, visiting team personnel, scorers, statisticians are not deemed essential and may need to find an alternate location. The ball should be cleaned and sanitized as much as possible throughout the event. You must have parking for officials, dressing rooms with showers, security for officials, but they have to have an area where they can physical distance, where they can dress 6 feet apart. If you don't have that, make sure that you communicate so they can dress in waves. Have all cleaning material for officials, have it available. It's very important that we give our children their childhood back. Our actions will never eliminate the risk, but our actions in following these guidelines will mitigate. That's the very best we can do, is mitigate the risk. It's important that we lead by example, and I'm counting on each one of you. I said it earlier, our world would be in a lot better shape if we had the leadership in every situation that you provide our student athletes. I'm encouraged by what I see with our coaches. You've done an excellent job. Time will tell us. You'll know in about 3 or 4 weeks if wearing a mask has helped, if everyone has done what we've asked them to do. Did we do enough? Excuse me. Did we do the right thing? I know this. God forbid if we don't do these things and we take away our children's future. I want to cover one other thing with you, and that's our finances. As this has become a very challenging time for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, I'm extremely thankful to the Central Board of Control for instituting policies that mandate that we keep 1 year in reserve. If you would have said to me that we would ever have a situation that we would not have sport, I would have never imagined what that would be. But we don't charge you dues. We don't charge you if you don't play in the playoffs, if your teams don't play, we don't receive any money from your school. We may be the only association that is like that. So we have been affected by COVID-19. But again, I'm thankful for our board, for their leadership. Our general fund right now is at $4.6 million. We have our finance committee has done a great job with our investment account. We have $2.2 million in our investment account for a total of $6.8 million. Revenue sharing will be discussed at our board meeting. My recommendation to the board, due to the current situation, is place revenue sharing on hold until we know what our future is. Let's look where we were last year. Our general fund was $5 million. We were 4.6 this year. Our investment account was 2.1. We're 2.2. We were at $7.1 million. We gave back $2 million. We left ourselves a little under what we need to have, but we wanted to give back a little more last year. We left ourselves with $5.1 million. You could see where we were in 2018. Again, we gave back 1.6 that year. We left ourselves with 5.4. Our operating budget for this association is $3.2 million. Our tournament expense is $2.1 million. It increased this year because of officials, they're increasing their pay. So our auditors tell us we need to have between $5.3 and $5.5 million. I want to show you what's happened in the last year. We gave back, by a vote of the Central Board, and a recommendation from the association, we had been taking $1 off every playoff ticket and putting it into revenue share and sharing it back with you. This year, we gave that back directly to you after every event. That has directly affected $320,000 you received back already without revenue share. Our officials increases were $193,000 for just 2 sports seasons. Our spring sports would have, with baseball and softball and soccer and track, would have been, we would have been close to $300,000. Sponsor deductions due to COVID, and we will receive most of this money, good Lord willing. We're down about $135,000. Our spring sport revenue, we lost about $400,000 due to spring sports not participating. And we gave back to schools this year the 5% basketball sanctioning fee, which equated to $55,000. So that's a total difference that we've had in a year of $912,000. If you look to the right, $375,000 of that money would have been directly back to your schools. So I go back to this, and you add almost $400,000, we would have been at 7.2, and we'd be in pretty good shape. We have money to give back in revenue sharing right now, but with the uncertain times and the possibility that we may not have any sports for a while, I'm going to ask the board to wait till we have a certain future and we're back to participating in championship play. Please, if you have any questions for me, text them to AHSA 211 to 22333. Send me those questions. Next Wednesday, our board will meet and discuss our return to play document, our contingencies for every sport due to COVID, as well as game rule modifications. We will have a press conference the next day at 1 o'clock, and we will place those to you first online on the end of the day on July 22nd, and we'll discuss those on July 22nd. We'll allow you to text questions to us and ask us any questions, but you don't have to wait till then. If you have any questions regarding anything to do with whether it's a bylaw, whether it's COVID-19, I ask you to contact us. Don't worry about the time. Don't worry about the day. Just contact us and let us work together through this situation. I do love and appreciate every one of you for what you do. I'm very grateful that you allow me the opportunity to serve in the position I serve. I'm thankful to the Central Board of Control as well as our membership. And I look forward to working through the challenges that we have together. We're going to get through this. And we're all going to be understanding. We're all going to be flexible. And we're all going to be patient. And if we do those things, we can get through this together. If we don't, it's going to be a very challenging remainder of 2020. If at this time we can have a commercial with one of our corporate partners, and then we'll be bringing up Ron Ingram to discuss the NFHS network. We'll be right back.
Encore Sports Medicine.
I welcome everybody back. It's my privilege at this time to introduce our Director of Communications, the Hall of Fame sports writer. Please welcome Ron Ingram.
Thank you, Coach. I'm getting tangled up here. Appreciate it. I'm Ron Ingram, and I'm really excited to tell you about a new program that the NFHS Network has instituted for our member schools. They have invested $200 million into member schools across the country, and they're providing 2 Pixelot cameras for schools that do not have them. Free, that's an $11,000 investment. But what the schools must do is they must apply online and they must sign up for the NFHS network. Now, why would you want to sign up for the NFHS network? Our member schools that have been in that program since 2013 have received, through the revenue share program, $247,000 during that time. That's one reason. The second reason is, as Mr. Savarese alluded to, the Central Phoenix City's school broadcast program, which is promoting this summer conference and putting it together and producing it. Students get involved. It's a great opportunity for more students to be involved, and it's also a great opportunity for each school to tell its message. Now, what is the Pixelot? A Pixelot is a mounted camera. One would go on in the stadium permanently, and one would go into the main gymnasium permanently. And any event shown in that stadium or in that gymnasium, any student that I'm sorry. Here it is. Okay, but I'm learning here, folks. But any of the events that's in that stadium can be live streamed. The high school support program also is providing an opportunity for the schools to sell passes, as Coach mentioned earlier, annual passes, and whatever price you sell them to your booster club or whatever, a certain percentage will go to your school, and a part of it will go to the NFHS network. But this is a great way for your school to earn more revenue, particularly in this coming fall when revenue may be difficult. The NFHS network also has another program they're going to do. Anyone that subscribes to the program will be receiving alerts all along about your events that are online. They're also going to provide a way for individuals to give directly back to the schools, kind of a GoFundMe program if you want to think of it in those terms. It will show your school a program, and folks can go directly to a link through this email address and or a program online, and they can donate immediately. The Pixelot Free for All camera is really an outstanding camera. Not only can it show your events, but it is also set up now where it can actually help work in the coaching editing programs similar to Huddle and some of the other programs that are out there. And thank you and I hope if any of you have any questions about the NFHS Network's Pixelot program, Free for All, please give me a call at the AHSAA office or shoot me an email. Thank you.
Just to add what Ron said, the NFHS Network Board of Directors is meeting in the next 2 weeks to look at more ways to provide our member schools across the country ways to make additional funds if we have athletic contests, especially with limited fans. So I'm very grateful to the NFHS Network for working with state associations to truly help our member schools. Next guy is our he is definitely our director of technology. I don't know what we'd do without him. He teaches our IT administrator, Rodney Mills. He teaches him all the time, and he helps him. But he has helped us transition to Dragonfly. You've heard enough from Dragonfly over the last 2 days. Marvin's just going to mention a couple of things to you, but I'm forever grateful for all the work Marvin's done to help with this transition. Marvin.
Thank you, Coach Savarese. And again, good morning. I just want to say a couple of things about Dragonfly. What a great partnership it's been with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. We're just excited about this transition to the new software. We're hoping that it's that all-in-one stop shop that everybody's been looking for, from the officials program to content management to eligibility, roster schedules, everything. We're truly excited about what Dragonfly brings to the state of Alabama and the entire country. Again, we just want to talk about some of the things that Dragonfly brings with digital forms. Hopefully a lot of the schools are taking advantage of the digital forms with those parents during this time, having those parents fill out those forms digitally so there's no exchanging of papers, things like that. So makes it very, very simple for the athletic directors and principals of the school to use that software. They can do it from their phone, from anywhere they have an internet connection, filling out those forms. Scheduling, communications, those coaches telling their student athletes about practices, if it's canceled, if it's moved, locations, things like that, all that communication tools within the software. Excited about that. Financial management from, paperless, schools not having to write checks anymore, paying the officials. I know Mark Jones will go over that in his presentation, but all the different things that Dragonfly brings to the state of Alabama and the Alabama High School Athletic Association, we're just excited about. Again, technologies that Dragonfly brings will help limit contact in the school year. So please, 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 if you have any questions, feel free to contact them or myself. But digital forms, online fee payments, schedules, calendars, messaging, all of those things are great tools for schools to use. Again, we were one of the early adopters of the NFHS COS program for officials. It's a very comprehensive officiating platform, but it's, again, part of the Dragonfly's system, and it's that all-in-one stop shops that we've been asking for, so we're just excited about that, from registration, assigning, paying, testing, rules, all of the above. So again, we're just want to be a leader in technology, and we feel like we are with this partnership with Dragonfly. Again, I wanted to cover one of the forms that schools can use and utilize at their schools is the COVID-19 form. It can be found in your standard forms in your school's Dragonfly account, but these are forms that you can assign to your students as them filling out daily, weekly, whatever you may want to use it for, but utilize that form within your school. They can fill that form out from their mobile phone and check in from their mobile phone to certain practices, things like that. So really want to take advantage of all the different ways that you're not having to pass paper around, but utilizing just that mobile application. And the last thing I want to talk about is just all of the different tools that Dragonfly has, especially in their mobile app. Again, when it comes to communication, messaging, sports medicine tools for athletic trainers, you can see when your kids show up at the trainers to get help. So again, just all encompassed tools that Dragonfly has to offer as far as tools to help messaging, tools for athletic trainers, tools for principals, athletic directors. So just truly, truly excited about this partnership. Don't know what we do without Kirk Miller and his entire staff. They've done so many webinars. If you have any questions, feel free to view our website. You'll see the Dragonfly training icon at the top of the website. We've got a lot of videos, previous webinars you can watch, but if you have any questions, please, 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 always just feel free to contact me. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you, Marvin. I want to comment on one part, the financial forms. I'm very thankful for our staff working with Dragonfly on financial forms to hopefully make it much easier for you. They're automated. There's just a few requirements that you put in. The form will basically calculate themselves. So we hope that makes your life a little easier. But again, I want to thank Marvin for everything you've done, Marvin, with Dragonfly. You and Rodney, y'all have done an awesome job, and I'm very grateful. This next young man is my son also. I call him, we got Brandon Savarese now, and he told me he was my son the other day. I said, well, then I got some chores for you, but he didn't like that part very much. But he's been a great addition to our staff, came to us from Montgomery as athletic director for the city system, now is in charge of baseball, assistant with the Coaches Association, and works with many other duties, one being sanctioning, that he's going to talk to you about the new requirement. So please welcome Brandon Dean.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate the kind words. I just want to cover sanctioning real quick, just to remind you what needs to be sanctioned and what not. As you see an example on the screen, you have these big tournaments such as volleyball, basketball, cross country, with 2 or more teams. They need to be sanctioned first before competing in those events. If not, that may be a fine from our office. In regular season play such as region football, area basketball, volleyball area play, tri-matches do not need to be sanctioned by our association. Also, out-of-state opponents, please check with us first to make sure they're a member of their association to compete against those out-of-state opponents. If not, that could be a fine as well. As Kim mentioned also earlier, there can be no Sunday play at all, without question. If so, that could be a fine too from our association. Also, the sanctioning feature now is up and running on Dragonfly. You can see now on the screen in the filter box, type in sanctioning events, and you'll see a drop-down box that says what's sanctioned and what's not sanctioned. If any questions, contact us in our office for those answers. Okay, brand new now in the Federation Learning Center are 2 courses called COVID-19 and the Collapsed Athlete. They cover very timely and valuable health and safety consequences and procedures. COVID-19 is live now on the Federation website. They're free. Also, you can see the Collapsed Athlete, that's free as well, available now in the Federation website, innovacelearn.com. Any questions concerning sanctioning or coaches education, please contact me via email or telephone. Coach.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. The next person I have the privilege of introducing is not my son. He is my older brother. It's Mark Jones. Mark has been the director of our officials for 4 or 5 years now, and has done an outstanding job. He was elected to be inducted into the Alabama Sports Officials Hall of Fame, which will take place at some time whenever we can have a banquet again. But we're very privileged to have him work with us. He's going to talk to you about how you can pay officials without writing checks. So please welcome Mark Jones.
Thank you, Coach. The only reason you consider me older is because you have more hair than I do. Before I talk to you about the paying of officials in the Center of Official Services, Coach mentioned it earlier, but taking care of the officials and the security of officials, that is extremely important, especially in today's society. You're responsible for taking care of the officials from the arrival by providing them a place to park, then escorting them to their dressing room, from the dressing room to the field, off the field at halftime, and then at the end, taking them back to their vehicles. So please make sure that you take care of the officials and the safety and security of officials during the contest. I also want to mention to you about the importance of your help in continuing to grow the number of officials. You can identify former athletes from your schools that will make great officials. Former athletes make the best officials, but encourage them to get involved. Make sure that they understand that they are going to get yelled at a little bit, but they can get over that. They get yelled at by their coaches every day. So they know how to take that and become better people and get involved in officiating. That is extremely important. One of the best benefits of the Center for Official Services is the ability to pay the officials easily. I strongly recommend and encourage you to take advantage of this portion of the Center for Official Services. It's a one-stop shop to where everything's together. That's what's so great about our relationship with Dragonfly, and as Marvin mentioned to you, their staff is excellent to work with, and they will assist you. Our staff will assist you if you have any problems with this component. But you're able to pay the officials strictly from the game screen that's on there now. You'll see the list of officials, and another great component of this for the coaches and athletic directors is you're able to see that officials are assigned to your contest. You don't have to worry about, do we have officials coming or not? You're able to see the officials that are assigned to the contest, and that is another great benefit of the one-stop shop. But in paying the officials, when it comes up on the game, you can change the amounts, the travel, adjust, confirm, and make sure that the payment is correct. Once you confirm that they did work the game and the payment's correct, you're just clicking a couple of buttons and the officials are paid. And one of the best luxuries of this for the bookkeepers and the financial people at your school is the fact that Dragonfly takes care of the 1099s. This is such a great addition, and I encourage you to take advantage of it in order to pay the officials. But not only the officials, as you heard from Brandon yesterday talk about this, you can add strictly to this game form that you see here now, you can add the other people that you pay, public address, security, anybody else that you pay for that contest, you can add them and connect them to this game by adding them to the official section over there. And it does not interfere with the officiating or the official assigners. They don't see that portion. You're the only one that sees that, and you can pay those people. So this is a great asset, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. And if you have any questions at all, Dragonfly will be glad to accommodate you, as well as myself, Ken Washington, and Vanda Peppers, who does a great job in her office with the officials. But thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great season.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate what you do. The next person I have the privilege of introducing is Ken Washington, our Assistant Director of Officials. Ken is multifaceted. While working with our officials, also works with multiple sports here, as well as he is a college basketball official. He officiates all levels of college basketball up to the SEC, and he is an outstanding person. He is going to discuss with you the rule modifications, not all of them, that we will be proposing to the board next week. Once the board approves, then they will be official. He's going to cover just a few things with you. These will be for all fall sports. Please welcome Ken Washington.
Thank you, Coach. As we look to return to play safely as possible, as Coach alluded to earlier, we have some modifications and some best practices that was provided by the National Federation, and it's our hope to mitigate the spread of the virus of COVID-19. So we'll get right into this. We're gonna start off with football. team boxes. This is just to help on the sidelines where we want to maintain social distance. We have extended the team box to 10 to 10-yard line. Those are for players only. The coach's box will still remain at 25-yard line. As far as the timeouts, we have 2-minute timeouts. This is charged timeouts by any coach. This is allow adequate time for each player to receive rehydration fluids in the amount of time that we can make sure that we stay hydrated. Volleyball. At the scorers table, we want to make sure that we have essential personnel only. That should be a libero tracker, a timer, and the home team scorer. All visiting team personnel is not essential, so we want to make sure we only have essential personnel only. Swimming and diving. Swimming and diving team lane placement keeps team on opposite sides of the pool. Required by the home team to compete in lanes 1 and 3, and visitors swimming in lanes 4 and 6. Again, this is just to help with keeping our social distance. As far as cross-country modifications, the start times, we might want to go in waves, intervals, anything that'll help if we have large amount of participants. In those narrow lanes, we want to try to widen those when possible to at least 6 feet. Oh, that's all I have. Wow, that's short. Coach always keep me on a short leash. So at this time, I'm going to return it back to Coach. Thank you.
A short leash. I just try to keep you on a leash. That's period. That is right, Ken. Thank you, Ken. And all those rule modifications will be posted on the AHSAA website following board approval Wednesday, July 22nd. At this time, I have the privilege of introducing Assistant Director in charge of championships, HR. If I give you all her titles, I need a whole page. She does so much for us here at the office. She's going to talk to you about opportunities with digital ticketing. She'll talk to you about contactless ticketing, ways to help you as you deal with COVID-19 issues. Please welcome Denise Ainsworth.
Thank you, Coach. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. I do want to talk to you about GoFan digital ticketing, which is no stranger to you. GoFan has been a provider of hard tickets, paper tickets for schools for generations. They were formerly under the name Huddle Incorporated. Now they're GoFan. All of you have enjoyed their partnership and their care for our schools throughout the years. Currently, with their new digital platform, we have approximately 150 of our schools, about 36% of our schools, who are participating in the digital ticketing model. Well, with COVID-19 and us trying to adapt to new distances and no longer able to hug and limiting touch, this is a great program for you to consider implementing, is the digital ticketing program if you are not one of those 150 schools that are using this platform. Our state is the top state in the country of selling digital ticketing. We have, as I said, about 36% of our schools participating. We would love to see that climb to 100%. If you have been thinking about that and just procrastinating, or if you've been thinking about that and trying to weigh your options, this is the year possibly to go ahead and take that leap into digital ticketing. This will help you so much with COVID-19 because it limits contact. It allows you for pre-sale so that if you were to have limited number of attendees in your stadiums, you would know ahead of time how many tickets you have sold and how many people you could continue to sell to. So we would encourage you to look at digital ticketing this year because it is very, very timely in nature. Because of our changing times, GoFan has been working really, really hard to help all of our schools stay relevant. They have developed to help you a process called cashless ticketing or touchless ticketing. I was an athletic director for 12 years, and I know what a nightmare it is on Friday nights when you're exhausted and have put in 18-hour days to have to stay another 2 hours to count the money and make sure it reconciles and get it safely to the safe. Actually, we had a money box stolen one time from a basketball game even. So I know that nightmare that you as ADs and principals are dealing with. So the cashless program alleviates that. It helps with safety. It helps with the no touch. But it also helps with reconciliation. It helps with refunding money. Some of the schools who are already going cashless had to refund prom money this year. I've talked to some schools who are still trying to refund that money. But the schools who went cashless made a call to GoFan. The people who needed a refund found that money in their account the very next morning. The school didn't have to do any of that. So we hope very much at this time that all of you will consider GoFan not only the digital ticketing platform, but also their cashless platform. And if you join the cashless platform with GoFan, they will restructure your fee structure that goes back to your school. So please consider GoFan. You will talk to Patrick Knowles. Those of you who were online yesterday, I told you he's one of the best people on earth I know. He's just a great man to work with, and GoFan is a great company that has partnered with AHSAA because they care about kids. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Patrick's available to help you, and I'm also available here in the office. And I wish all of you the best of luck as we move forward with play in this fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate what you do. Appreciate how you come in the office every morning and tell me what to do. I enjoy those meetings. It is my privilege at this time to introduce our director of the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association, Jamie Lee. Jamie's been with us now 4 or 5 years, 3 years. Time flies when you're having fun. He's done an outstanding job taking over for Alvin Briggs in charge of the Coaches Association, and has just been a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. He's very intelligent and he's very committed. Now, some days I want to commit him. I just got to let y'all know that. He is. I tell a story. Jamie came down to visit me one day and he said, "Coach, if there's ever an opening at association, I really would like to be there." Now, I want to ask him now if he still feels the same way after he's been here for 3 years, because we've got a lot of challenging times since he's been here. But we love him. We appreciate him. He does a great job. Please welcome Jamie Lee.
Thank you, Coach. In about 3 out of about 5 days, I still want to be here a week. But no, I'm just kidding. I do love my job, and I'm very thankful. On behalf of all the athletic directors and coaches, first of all, I want to tell all of you I'm very grateful to be the director of the association. I'm honored to be able to try to lead the association and try to help coaches and administrators the best I can, and I'm thankful to have this job here at the AHSAA. I want to personally take a point of privilege and thank Brandon Dean for all he does to help us, to help the Coach Association. I could not do our job the way we try to do it without Brandon. I also want to thank specifically Vanda Peppers, but all of our ladies in the office that help us in the Coach Association. They do a tremendous job, and Vanda is my right and left hand upstairs with the Coach Association. I'm very thankful for her and all the ladies for all they do. So thank you very much. It's my privilege to announce again that the Coach Association will be able to offer your coaches cards, your administrator cards, and I'm very pleased about that, very proud to be able to do that. We're one of the few states in the country that still provides those coaching cards for every championship. We have some states that provide coaching cards, but not necessarily for every single championship. So we're one of the few that still provide that card to be able to attend all of our championships. and I'm very thankful to be able to do that. So I just want to mention a couple things about that. Administrators, please give me your attention on this. Just the first part of next week, we will send out an email to you that will have the instructions, step by step, what you will need to do in order to order your administrative cards and order your coaching cards. Everything will go through Dragonfly. It'll be a very simple and very easy process for you. And again, we're going to send out a blast to you that will have those instructions step by step, tell you exactly what to do, how to pay for them, how to take care of your coach's cards, etc. But one thing that I definitely need your help on, we need your help on, our ladies need your help on, is when you go through the process of approving the coaches, yes, we're going to pay for this coach, we're going to pay for that coach, etc. Couple things need to be make sure that you please make sure they're done. First of all, they have to be principal certified. In order to get that coaching card, they've got to be principal certified. Secondly, please double check that they have put in all their personal information: cell phone number, email address, what school, what position they're coaching, and their home address. That is very important for us when we need to reach out to a coach for an issue. We want to be able to make sure we have that. So please take the time to do that. And then finally, and this is the most important, when you see the process, you'll see a list of all your coaches there that you're getting ready to order a card for. You'll see their picture beside it. Their profile picture on their Dragonfly account must be a headshot only. We can go through there now and see a lot of people in Dragonfly have a profile picture and it has them and their pet, or them and their entire family, or them and their basset boat, or whatever it might be. We need you, please, to take care of that for us, where it's just a headshot, no caps, no bandanas, no facial coverings, etc. Just a headshot of them on their profile picture. In order for our ladies to approve the card, that's got to be taken care of. So please do that for us. I would recommend you have them go onto their mobile app, just take a picture on their phone and upload their picture right there in the Dragonfly mobile app. That's how they can do their profile picture. So again, before you send those cards, the request of cards to us, I would just ask all administrators, athletic directors, or principals to confirm that all your coaches have uploaded a correct profile picture and all their personal information is there. Again, if I can do anything for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We thank you for joining this conference. We hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got I know we've given you a lot of valuable information. Hope you can use it. And Coach Savarese, I appreciate all that you do for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate your information. Now it's my privilege to introduce my other son. I was getting on him the other day, and I said, Alvin, you're going to have to do better at this. He says, what's going to happen if I don't, Coach? He says, are you going to fire me? And I said, well, and I just got to, well, he said, because you know what I told you. If you fire me, I'm moving in. So he's got a lifetime job here. That's all I'm going to say. And no, I'm sorry, Alvin. But, I love Alvin. I travel with him to a lot of games. That's probably what I miss the most, is traveling around this state and having the opportunity to go to contests. Last spring was hard on all of us here because we all love sport. We all know the benefits of sport. And not having, our spring championships was just devastating to us. And now coming back and with the uncertainty in the fall, it's been a very challenging time. But what I've missed the most is traveling, watching the NFHS network in my car with multiple, while Alvin was driving, while multiple applications, watching all the games all across the state. We have a ball, and I love it. And so I'm privileged to get to work with this gentleman. I do consider him like a son, and he's just a wonderful person. Please welcome Alvin Briggs.
Thank you, Coach. It goes without saying that not only I, but everybody that works in this office loves you also. I'm here today to talk to you about audits and a couple other things. As you all know, we've already transitioned to Dragonfly, and because of transitioning to Dragonfly, you're able to upload a lot of your coaches and your student audit processes online now. And with that being done, we'll be able to do a lot of these remotely. We will have our auditors in for a session here in August, and we'll talk to them about doing it remotely, and they will contact you individually as they always have when they come in. You will let them know whether you have uploaded all your information into Dragonfly or if it's still in files. If it's still in file, you will have to set up a way for them to come in and isolate them so they can do all your auditing during that process. So be thinking about that as we go into fall and what direction you want to use. You have a little time. As always, our auditors probably will not come out until mid-September, so it gives you a little time to get that situated. Brandon Dean mentioned 2 courses that you can go ahead and do. Recommended the COVID-19 for coaches and administrators and the collapsed athletes. Those are just recommended courses that you can take. They don't have to be in the coaches' files, but we do highly recommend those courses. The new course that has to be in the coaches' files, the NFHS Student Mental Health Suicide Prevention course. That is a mandated course by the Central Board of Controls. All your coaches should have completed that course by now, and it should be in their file before they work with any students. Nothing has changed for our students for as audit concern. You just need to make sure the 2 forms, the student concussion history form and the student release form, are on the current year's form, the 2020-2021 current school year form. Those forms need to be signed and dated correctly and put in those files for the auditor's process as well. I also want to talk to you about being proactive. Kim Vickers talked to you earlier about we're here to help your students be eligible. That's what we're here for. We want every possibility way to make students eligible. We're not here to make them ineligible. You know, you're the head of your school. You're responsible. You know, athletics is an educational base. It's not just athletics. So make sure you understand what's going on. Be proactive. We're here. Please call us. Be involved. Be involved in every situation. We're here for you to call us. Don't hesitate. Lastly, Mark Jones mentioned security for officials, so did Coach Savarese. We'll continue to mention the importance of having security for your officials when they arrive and when they leave, on and off the field. It's important. Please arrange for officials. I would also like to suggest that you get with your local police, your local EMAs, and talk about your emergency action plan. Make sure you go over those emergency action plans with those people. Have a meeting, walk through it. All your administrative team, have a plan. Because it's not a matter of fact if it's going to happen, it's when something's going to occur. And you can de-escalate many issues by being proactive. It's important that you do. When you do have an incident on your campus that involves athletics, don't hesitate to call, no matter what time of night. What time of night it is, most of you have our phone numbers. Please call us so we can help you through those incidents, so we can get a head start on those incidents, so we can be proactive and get everything we need for those incidents that occurs. So again, please be proactive. Please get with your local police. Please get with your local EMA. Talk about your emergency action plans. Walk through those emergency action plans. Make sure everybody in your school, your administrative teams, your coaches, anybody that's involved in any athletic event understands what's going on and what's happening, so it won't be any lapse or anything that happens. Thank you, and please feel free to call us at any time.
Great job, Alvin. Thank you. Great job. You know, as I watched up here, I watched all these forms, and I know some of you thinking, oh, I got to take this course. I have to do these things. we have been subpoenaed in the last year for our records regarding 2 schools in the state of Alabama who are being sued. We're not involved in the lawsuit, but it's a civil suit against the schools over negligence. And the first thing that they ask us for, and our IT administrator provides it, are the records of whether these individuals, first of all, attended our mandatory medical advisory meeting. I can tell you both schools had a 100% attendance over the period of years they requested. They also asked, were they in attendance for today? This meeting, both schools had 100% attendance. In addition, they asked us for all forms. They asked the school for all forms. Then they go and they look at our handbook and say, when did we provide professional development regarding subject A, B, or C? Were they in attendance? We live in a litigious world today. So what we ask you to do is there to protect you. And we encourage you to make sure you have all the forms, all the courses, everything up to date. Do not let a child participate without a consent form, without a concussion form, without going over COVID-19 practices, because we don't know what COVID-19 holds for us in the courtroom in the future. So we encourage you to do those things. Now, I have a number of questions that have been sent to us, and Kim, if we have any additional questions that I need to answer, please send them to me. Again, we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to cover questions. And again, text to AHSA 211-22333. Text AHSA 211 to 22333, and we will answer as many questions as we can. First question has been discussion about moving fall sports to the spring. I can tell you this, there's been discussion about every scenario that I think is humanly possible. But yes, we've discussed moving fall sports to the spring. It's not going to be a recommendation. And I want to remind you, the board makes all those decisions, but we would make the recommendation. So the way we look at it, our spring sports lost their almost entire season last year. To place them in a position where they could lose their season again would never be a recommendation of this office. All sports are important, male, female, spring, winter, and fall. So we will play our sports in the season where they occur, and if something happens, unfortunately, we could miss them, we might have to shorten them, and so on. The other issue is a health-related issue. I'm going to round it off using spring training as well as 4 preseason weeks in a 15-week season. It takes approximately 20 weeks to play a football season. To play 20 weeks in the spring, have 7 weeks off in the fall, and come back and play 20 weeks again, which would mean you play 40 out of 47 weeks, would not be a recommendation. Our doctors tell us a minimum of 3 to 5 months should occur between seasons. So our medical advisory board will not allow us to recommend that change. Will our association provide best practice recommendations for spectators? We will provide some recommendations, but we leave that up to the local school system because the local school system understands their complexities. We do not. So the local school systems will develop any guidelines for spectators as they did for graduations. Regarding the transfer rule for school employees, what about hourly employees? You must be a certified teacher for that student to be eligible. An hourly employee would not qualify. So you must be a certified teacher teaching a full load of classes for that student to be eligible. If a middle school student, let's say a school starts, doesn't have to be a middle school student, if a school starts and their season is cut off due to COVID, their system shuts down, and under the JV transfer rule and below, they decide to transfer. If I'm correct, Kim, we allow that transfer at the beginning of any semester one time a year. The beginning of any semester one time a year. So if they transferred after the beginning of the year, once it started, they would be ineligible to the beginning of the next semester. Is a coach allowed to coach a travel team? No. Simply no. You are allowed to coach only your child if they're on a travel team with no other students, 7 through 12, involved with your school. So do not coach travel teams or be associated with them. Only you may coach your child on a travel team with no other student from your school. But if a student on that travel team transfers to your school, they would be ineligible. If a student lives under the same roof with a parent guardian that tests positive, and then the question breaks off, but I'll answer that question. You need to check with your administration and the Department of Public Health. We don't establish guidelines for COVID-19. Those guidelines are established by the Department of Public Health. And if you go to cdc.com, adph.com, you'll be able to follow the guidelines. I would contact those individuals, and they will tell you exactly what to do. Can we use regular tickets for home fan and go fan for visiting? You can use anything that you want. We do that for the playoffs. All visiting fans during the playoffs is what we're responsible for. We do not provide visiting fans. We only allow them to purchase digital tickets or buy a hard copy ticket from the home school. So you may set it up any way you would like. I would encourage you. You heard what Denise said. I would encourage you to find ways to go cashless. We're providing you opportunities. The cashless system, it's not only for athletics. How are you going to collect fees in your schools? Use the cashless system to collect fees. Take dues for clubs, anything you want to do. I pray that we have these opportunities, but I encourage you to look at that cashless system. It could be very valuable for your schools, and you could transition to it over a period of years. I think it would be. I think it's something to look into. Do we recommend that area games, so I assume this is volleyball, be scheduled at the beginning of the year? I recommend you play area games when everybody's in session. Figure that one out. I don't know how to tell you, but I think all of you are going to have to work together. You'll see the contingency. We have a contingency that ends up in a blind draw for area. But we encourage y'all to all understand each other's situation in your area. If school A is out and school B, C, and D are in session, then look at when possibly school A will come back and then try to schedule it right away. So everybody, this is not normal. We talked about the new normal when I talked. Everybody's got to adjust, be flexible, be understanding, be patient. It's not about winning championships. It's about having kids get a winning experience. And if we don't, look, we're the adults. Adults have to set the example for kids, and we have an opportunity to teach them. We have an opportunity to teach them how to compromise. We have the opportunity to teach them how to do something for the common good of all. Not, we got to do whatever we can so we get a win. It's not what we're trying to teach kids for life. We're trying to teach kids how to get along, how to work together, how to be respectful to each other, to be understanding. And you, the educational leader, set the example and are the role model for our students. How much is the one-time setup fee for Pixel-Lock cameras? $2,500 for 2 cameras, $1,500 for 1. Or if your superintendent signs an agreement that he will get the system set up within 30 days and running, it's free. It's free. So you can get 2 cameras free if your system guarantees they'll have it up and running If not, they'll send in their folks, and you have to agree to be assessed the $2,500 fee. So you can have it free if you get it set up. They also have now, everybody worries about the internet. I can't get internet to my stadium. They have wireless bridges now. I recommend, if you can't get internet, to pay the $2,500 for 2 Pixel-Lock cameras, which you're getting, as Ron said, $12,000 worth of equipment free, that you're going to make that money back in 1 year. And I would recommend you let them set it up, let them set up the wireless bridge, and they have all new technology now. And so it can help you have a quality production. What is the protocol if we're not able to field a team because parents don't feel comfortable? I'm going to ask the board on Wednesday not to penalize any schools whatsoever that have COVID-19 issues, as long as I get a letter from the superintendent. And you agree when you declared to participate in championship play. I can't make an exception. Only the board would have to establish a new policy for this year due to COVID-19 that we would allow you not to participate without a penalty. That will be our recommendation, and I'm confident the board will approve that next week. So we want to work with you. We want to work with you as you face the challenges you face. I talk about flexibility, understanding, and patience. The Alabama High School Athletic Association needs to do the same. We need to be more flexible, more understanding, more patient, as long as we don't challenge the integrity of what we're teaching kids. Because I remind you again, we can do this. We can set the example for the world to watch. We can have athletic events following the best practices that we put out, allowing our kids to experience sport, understanding the possibility of acquiring or living with the virus. We can do this if everyone does their part, and it's not about gaining an advantage. You don't have to play. You may want to play later in the year. Whatever you want to do, I pray and hope that we can work with you on that so our students can have an experience that they'll never forget and they don't miss their senior years again. So again, we can do this together, and if you have a question, you call us. Let us help you through it. Let us provide you guidance. That's what we're here to do. We don't have all the answers. If we had all the answers, we'd already fix this problem. We don't. We're just like you. We're trying to work through this with the data that we have every day, and things change daily. But together we can do it if our common goal remains the same for the development of our student athletes and providing them an opportunity, not about winning championships. It's about getting our kids back out, letting them have fun, and letting our children return to their childhood. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. It's been my privilege. Thank you so much for being part of this conference. I want to tell you this next segment is something you don't want to miss. It'll be at 10:45. Superintendent Dodd Hawthorne, Principal Dr. Farrell Seymour, 2 of our finest administrators in the state with 2 of our finest programs. Opelika City Schools, outstanding program. Band, football team, all their sports are awesome. Under the leadership of Mark Neighbors, they do a great job. And also Dodd Hawthorne in Crenshaw County. He's overcome Tony Stallworth helping him out. I want to let you know that. But they do an awesome job. So we have a small school, county system, and a city system to bring you best practices for hosting events and bringing schools, not only in football, but in all sports, to your schools. So I look forward to listening to their best practices. Again, thank you so much for listening to us today. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors and be right back.